Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Let us chant one round of japa with Srila Prabhupada. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakti. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रीमद् भगवद गीता एज इट इज की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam for all session. Let's recite Bhagavad Gita Shloka. We are reciting from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 12, text 2. Does anyone need to go first? We'll just go in order. Achintadev Prabhu, are you able to read? Or Aditi Lata Mataji and Arunita? Okay, in the end. Okay. Inba Inia, Jai Shri Mataji, Jai Ganesh Prabhu. Just let me. 1 second.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha Maya Veshya Mano Ye Mam Nityayukta Upasate Shraddhaya Parayopetas Te Me Yukta Tamamataha. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect."
India.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha Mayyaveshya mano ye mam nityayukta upasate shraddhaya parayopetas te me yukta tamamataha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect."
Mataji and Prabhuji are there?
No, Mataji.
Okay. Isha.
श्रीभगवानुवाच मया वेश्य मनो ये मां नित्ययुक्ता उपासते श्रद्धया परयोपेतास्ते मे युक्ततमा मतः. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect."
Krishna Ashish.
Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Veshya Mano Ye Mam Nityayukta Upasate Shraddhaya Parayopetas Te Me Yukta Tamamata. The Supreme Personality of God had said, "Those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect."
Madhava.
श्रीभगवानुवाच मया वेश्या मनो ये मां नित्ययुक्ता उपासते श्रद्धया परयोपेतस्ते मे युक्ता तमामतः. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect."
Yeah. Rasapriya.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha Maya Vesya Mano Ye Mam Nityayukta Upasate Shraddhaya Parayopetas Te Me Yukta Tamamataha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect."
Yeah. So, Arunita, Aditi, Lata Mataji, and Achintyadev Prabhu, if you're ready.
Yes, Mataji, I can read.
Otherwise,
Hare
I'll
Krishna.
recite. Oh, one
Please
second. Yes. You're ready, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled devotees.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhuji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please repeat. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha
Sri Bhagavan Uvacha
Maya Veshya Mano Ye Mam
Maya Veshya Mano Ye Mam
Nitya Yukta Upasate
Nitya Yukta Upasate
Shraddhaya Parayopetas
Shraddhaya Parayopetas
Te Me Yukta Tamamata.
Te Me Yukta Tamamataha. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect." Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Arunita and Aditi Lata Mataji. I'll recite Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, text 2. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Maya Veshya Mano Ye Mam Nityayukta Upasate Shraddhaya Parayopetas Te Me Yukta Tamamataha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect." Okay. Anyone else? Okay, then we'll begin Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 13, and we are reading about the descendants of King Nimi. So King Nimi is the son of Ikshvaku, and we were reading about King Nimi that he was engaged in performing yagyas, and once he requested Vashishta Muni to be the head priest, and Vashishta Muni said, Indra is also performing yagya at the same time. Let me go and complete his yagya. Until then, meanwhile, you wait for me. And after I complete that yagya, I will come and perform your yagya. But Nimi was a great self-realized soul. So he thought that there is no certainty of life, how long we are going to live. And we must make use of this time. So he thought, let me just go ahead with this yagya by employing some other priests. If Vashishta Muni does not return, we'll just do it with some other priests. Now Vashishta Muni, after completing the yagya for Indra, came back to perform Nimi's yagya, but he was surprised to see that Nimi was already doing the yagya with other priests. And Vashishta Muni became angry that I told you to wait, and you think you are so learned that you'll disobey your spiritual master, like that. So because of this, I curse you that your body should fall. Then Nimi also counter cursed Vashishta Muni, saying that for no offense of mine, you have cursed me to die. Why? Just on the grounds of greed for the dakshina that is given by Indra. You have rejected my request, refused me when I asked you to perform my yagya, and instead you went to Indra. And now when I'm performing the yagya, you come to me and you curse me. This shows that you have lost your religious principles. You're becoming angry, and first of all you're becoming greedy, and then as a result of that greed, becoming angry and cursing an innocent person. This is a sign that you have fallen from your religious principles. Therefore, I also curse you, that may your body also fall. So, after this cursing and counter cursing, both King Nimi and Vashishta Muni dropped down dead. Their bodies fell. Vashishta Muni took birth as the son of Mitra and Varuna. When they saw Urvashi, they discharged their semen, and Vashishta Muni entered that, and then he got a body as the son of Mitra and Varuna. Once again, Vashishta Muni got his body, another body, and Nimi was performing some yagya. So the priests who were doing that yagya for him, when they saw that Nimi fell down, they completed the yagya, and after first of all they preserved the body of Nimi in fragrant substances, balms, etc. And then when the yagya was completed, they prayed to all the demigods that were assembled to kindly revive or give Nimi's life back. If the demigods were capable of doing that, and also if they didn't mind doing it. So the demigod said, no problem, we can do it, we can bring him back to life. But Nimi conveyed to them that he didn't want to enter into any material body again. After saying this, Nimi himself is explaining the reason. Those who are impersonalists, actually in the purport the word Mayavadis are used, they are afraid of entering any material body. So somehow or other, now I'm out of this material body. Why should I go back into another material body? Because entering into material body means suffering, birth, old age, disease, and death. So the impersonalists don't want a material body. Nimi is saying, King Nimi is saying, but the devotees of the Lord, they don't mind entering into the material body as long as they get an opportunity to render devotional service. They are not concerned with material happiness or material distress. They are only concerned with being able to render devotional service to the Supreme Lord. And if they get that opportunity, they can go anywhere in the creation. They can take birth in the heavenly planets or in the hellish planets. The only request is to allow them to remember the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord in whichever form they may take birth. So Nimi said this. That means I don't want to enter another material body means I don't want to enter a material body where I may not get an opportunity to render devotional service to the Lord. Like that. Then Srila Prabhupada in the purport quoted Bhaktivinoda Thakur's poem, where Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that he would be happy to take birth in a devotee's house, family, even as a mosquito or an insect. But he his prayer is that he should be allowed to take birth in a devotee's family, like that, so that he'll remember the Supreme Lord. Okay. So we have to read the second part of the purport. Arunita didn't read yesterday, and Achintadev Prabhu. So last two paragraphs.
Mataji, it's my turn to read.
Yeah, so you read this paragraph and your father will read the next one. Go ahead.
Okay. A person acting in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, in the service of Krishna, with his body, mind, and intelligence, and works, is a liberated person, even within the material world, although he may be engaged in many so-called material activities. The desire to serve the Lord establishes one as liberated in any condition of life, whether in a spiritual body or a material body. In a spiritual body, the devotee becomes the direct associate of the Lord. But even though a devotee may superficially appear to be in a material body, he is always liberated and is engaged in the same duties of service to the Lord as a devotee in Vaikuntha Loka. There is no distinction. As it is said, Sadhur Jivo Va Nityorva, whether
Jivova Marova.
Jivoma Marova, whether a devotee is alive or dead, his only concern is to serve the Lord.
Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti.
When he gives up his body, he goes directly to become an associate of the Lord and serve him. Although he does the same thing, even in a material body, in the material world.
Yeah. So in essence, what this paragraph is saying is, so I told you about Bhaktivinoda Thakur's poem. Also, Srila Prabhupada quotes Shikshashtakam, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says, Mama Janmani Janmanishware. Again and again, I don't mind taking birth in this world. Bhavatad Bhaktira Ahaituki Tvai. That means I can take birth in this world again and again as long as I get Ahaituki Bhakti in every birth. Ahaituki means pure devotional service. Devotional service which is causeless. Like Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. You do bhakti simply to please the Lord, not for getting anything. So as long as I get an opportunity to render this type of bhakti, I don't mind taking birth again and again. This is a devotee's mood. So here it is said that okay, so if one has a strong desire to serve the Lord, even if he accepts a material body, there is no cause of anxiety, since a devotee, even in a material body, is a liberated soul. This is confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami. Iha yasya harer dasya karmana manasagira nikhilasvakyavasthasu jivan muktasa uchate. That means for a devotee, even it appears like he's in a material body, right? It appears, right? He has the same two hands, two legs, and he also gets cold sometimes. Maybe he gets fever and looks like he's also getting old. So these are all the symptoms of a material body, old age, disease, right? So it appears like he's also in a material body. So if he has a material body, that means he's in a conditioned state. Is that what we should think? No, no. Even if a devotee appears to be in a material body, you should look at his activities. His consciousness is always absorbed in Krishna. If his consciousness is always absorbed in Krishna, then even though he may be in the material body, factually he is liberated. His activities will be in Krishna consciousness, even though he may have a material body. That's what this paragraph is saying. So, how his activities will be spiritual? By his desire, because all we can do is desire. When we desire to do something, then that activity is carried out by the modes of material nature, right? So, what we have within our capacity is simply to desire what we want to do. So, if we desire to simply serve Krishna, then even though we may be in the material body, because our desire is simply to serve Krishna, we are liberated. We are liberated, even though we may be in the material body. And then eventually, you'll get a parshada deha. Parshada deha means a body, a spiritual body belonging to the spiritual world. Like that. In a spiritual body, the devotee becomes a direct associate of the Lord. But even though a devotee may superficially appear to be in a material body, he is always liberated and is engaged in the same duties of service to the Lord as a devotee in Vaikuntha Loka. So that is why pure devotee means he does only Sakshat Bhakti. Sakshat Bhakti means direct devotional service. 24 hours, that's what he will be doing. Even though he's in this world, even though he appears to be in a material body, but his activities will be only the activities that are performed in Vaikuntha. That means Sakshat Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam, so on and so forth. Like this, there are many angas of bhakti. So they will only be engaged in the direct devotional service activities. So therefore, being in a material body or in the material world is not an impediment for a pure devotee. Again, why we are discussing this? Because King Nimi said, I don't want to go into another material body. But at the same time, he said, the impersonalists are concerned. They become fearful that they don't want to enter another material body. Devotee is not afraid, provided he gets an opportunity to serve the Lord. Last paragraph. Achintadev Prabhu. Not ready?
Oh, sorry, Mataji, I was talking on mute. For a devotee, there is no pain, pleasure, or material perfection. One may argue that at the time of death, a devotee also suffers because of giving up his material body. But in this connection, the example may be given that a cat carries a mouse in his mouth and also carries a kitten in his mouth. With the mouse and kitten, both the mouse and the kitten are carried in the same mouth, but the perception of the mouse is different from that of the kitten. When a devotee gives up his body, yaktva deham, tatva deham, he is ready to go back home, back to Godhead. Thus, his perception is certainly different from that of a person being taken away by Yamraj for punishment. A person whose intelligence is always concentrated upon the service of the Lord is unafraid of accepting a material body, whereas a non-devotee, having no engagement in the service of the Lord, is very much afraid of accepting a material body or giving up his present one. Therefore, we should follow the instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mama Janmani Svare Bhavatat Bhaktir Aitukihi Tyai. It doesn't matter whether we accept a material body or a spiritual body, our only ambition should be to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. So see, Srila Prabhupada is also saying, it does not matter whether we accept a material body or a spiritual body. That means I may go back to Godhead or I may not go back to Godhead. But if I get an opportunity to engage in devotional service of Krishna, I'm satisfied. I may have to take another birth in a material body, but if I get an opportunity to render devotional service to Krishna, that's my perfection. That's my perfection. This is the consciousness of a devotee. This is at the heart of a devotee. A devotee simply wants devotional service. Is not looking for freedom from material sufferings, freedom from the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. Or he's not thinking I should go back to the spiritual world, because nothing exists without Krishna. Yes, this material world also cannot exist without Krishna. So for a devotee, there is nothing separate from Krishna. He sees Krishna in everything. So for him, there is no material world. Even here, he's with Krishna all the time. So he's as good as being in the spiritual world. So therefore, he only wants to be able to remember Krishna. Because when he forgets Krishna, then there is material existence. He simply wants to remember Krishna and be able to see everything in connection with Krishna. Then he is actually in the spiritual world. And he does not mind even if he takes birth in a material body. Okay? And this analogy of a devotee's giving up his body and a non-devotee is giving up of his body. What is the difference? When a devotee is giving up his body, is he experiencing fear and pain that I don't know what will happen? Janmao bhi more ichha jadi tor bhakta grihe jani. One second, lost it. How more Kita Janma how Jatha Tuva Das. Yes, Mataji, this came just before this in the purport, same purport. We discussed it yesterday. Thank you. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that I can take birth, no problem. I'll take birth again and again, but please give me a birth in your devotees' family, even as an insect, right? I'll be happy. But I should be taking birth. I should get the association of devotees. Yeah. So that is the theme of this whole purport. A devotee is not fearful of getting another material body or many material bodies. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Mama Janmani Janmanishware. Again and again, he doesn't mind, not just one or two more. Any number of births. Why? Because when a devotee is giving up his body, he's always Krishna conscious. That's what we saw throughout his life. He is always seeking devotional service to Krishna. So, because of that consciousness, in his next life, he will get again an opportunity to render devotional service to Krishna. So, when he gets an opportunity to render devotional service, then he has nothing to lose. He does not mind. Whereas a non devotee, just I was listening to Srila Prabhupada's lecture today. Srila Prabhupada was saying, I think this was probably in Mayapur. Srila Prabhupada was saying that there was a snake the day before the class was given, one day before, and everyone was afraid. All the devotees were really concerned because, the snakes come in pairs, male and female. They were able to catch only one. And Srila Prabhupada had said that we found only one, so the other one must be somewhere, right? So now everyone was fearful, somewhere in the room, there may be the other serpent. Everyone was very, very fearful. So in the class, Srila Prabhupada was saying that yesterday when we saw the snake, everyone was fearful. We know, right? We studied in Bhagavad Gita that, we are not these bodies, we are spirit souls. and the soul cannot be killed, cannot be cut. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakah, na chainam kledayanti apo na shoshayati maruta. The soul cannot be cut. We know this. The soul cannot be killed. Still, when we see the snake, we become afraid. Why do we become afraid? So Srila Prabhupada says this is our nature, that we don't want to change, right? We don't want, although we know, right, that we cannot be killed, still the nature of the living entity is to go on living. You understand? He doesn't want to change. He doesn't want to change. He doesn't like to be, moved from one position to another, especially giving up this body. Why? Because you don't know the future, isn't it? Uncertainty. What will happen next? So, of course, but here in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is saying so that is a pure devotee. So, a pure devotee, he has no fear. He is ready to die. He has no fear. Why? Because whether he is in this body or in next body, he'll be doing the same thing. For him, there is no change. That's the point. For him, there is no change. But for a non-devotee, I am in a certain particular position now in one particular family with some family members. Srila Prabhupada in that lecture also says about my husband, my wife, my children. This affection, it's very, you cannot give up this affection, right? The attachment to one's spouse is very strong, Srila Prabhupada says, right? It's not easy to give it up, but we should give it up. So anyway, talking about Varnashram, Srila Prabhupada says that's the whole program of Varnashram, to gradually bring us out of this attachment. But anyway, in this context that we are discussing, so why we are afraid? Because we don't want to change. We don't want to change. Because change means we will lose what we have now, isn't it? When you get a change, when you're changed means you'll lose what you have now and it'll be changed to something else. You don't know if you will like it or not. You don't know if it's going to be as good as what you have now or not. So there's fear. This is the position of a non-devotee. But for a devotee, wherever you put him, in any part of the creation or in the spiritual world, he'll be doing the same thing. He'll be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. So for him, there is no fear. That's the point. For him, there is no fear. So to explain this point, Srila Prabhupada is saying, just like, so you compare death to the cat, right? The cat takes the mouse in its mouth and also takes its kitten in its mouth. So the mouse, when it is in the cat's mouth, what is the mouse thinking? So the mouse is like a non-devotee and the kitten is like a devotee. So for a non-devotee or for a mouse, when it is picked by the cat, when the mouse is in the cat's mouth, what is the consciousness of the mouse? This is death, right? I'm finished. There's fear, there's bewilderment, isn't it? But when the same cat carries its kitten in the mouth, what is the kitten thinking? Is the kitten also feeling fear and anxiety? No, the kitten is feeling completely secure. This is my mother. My mother, it feels affection. So, like that, when a devotee has to give up his body, he doesn't feel that anxiety and fear because he feels completely sheltered in the Lord's care. He doesn't feel that fear. So that is why a devotee does not mind. Even if he has to take another material body, he doesn't mind because he is always in the shelter of the Lord, whether in this material body or in the spiritual body, whether in this life or next life. Another material body, no problem. This life also, I am in the Lord's shelter. Next life also, I will be doing devotional service. I will be in the Lord's shelter. Therefore, a devotee does not feel any fear or anxiety whereas a non-devotee feels anxiety when he has to take another body. So the conclusion is, it does not matter whether we accept a material body or a spiritual body. This is pure devotional service. This is pure devotional service. It's okay, even if I have to take another body, they don't mind. Anyabhilashita shunyam, it is said, right? I don't even desire that I have to get out of this miserable material world. As long as I get an opportunity to engage in your devotional service, they don't ask that, take me to you, my Lord. I've had enough of this material world. Your devotees don't pray like that because they are with the Lord all the time through their devotional service, chanting, hearing, reading, like that. So text 10. Deham na varurutseham dukkha shoka bhayavaham sarvatrasyayato mrityur matsyanam udake yatha. Inba. Or
I do
Inya.
not
Go ahead.
I do not wish to accept a material body, for such a body is the source of all distress, lamentation, and fear. Everywhere in the universe, just as is for a fish in the water, which lives always in anxiety because of fear of death.
So after all this explanation, King Nimi had said, devotees are not afraid of accepting a material body. Impersonalists or Mayavadis are afraid because material body means again birth, old age, disease, and death, again miseries. So they don't want all that. So therefore, the impersonalists say, I don't want another material body. But devotee does not mind. So King Nimi is a devotee. Then why he is saying, I don't want another material body? So now Nimi himself is explaining, I do not wish to accept a material body, for such a body is the source of all distress, of course, right? Birth, old age, disease, then also Adhyatmik, Adi Bhautika, miseries are there. So the body is the source of all distress, lamentation, and fear everywhere in the universe, just as it is for a fish in the water, which lives always in anxiety because of fear of death. So King Nimi is saying, I don't want a material body because material body is going to give me so many. It's nothing, it's the source of all miseries, all distresses, all distress. Sounds like the impersonalist, isn't it? The impersonalist says that I don't want any material body because body means trouble, suffering. Then why King Nimi is saying, I don't wish to accept a material body, for such a body is the source of all distress, lamentation, and fear everywhere in the universe. So it does not matter which part of the universe you take birth. It's all material body, whether it is Lord Brahma's body, Indra's body, human body, or lower planets, Nagas, Patal Loka. All inhabitants, they have material bodies only. And wherever there is a material body, that body is a source of distress, fear, lamentation throughout the universe. How? Just like a fish out of water. When the fish is out of water, no matter what you give it, it's always in anxiety. It's always in fear. Only when you put it in water will it be peaceful again. So, material body means it has to end. And before it ends, it gives you so much pain, distress, fear. So I don't want material body, Nimi is saying, King Nimi is saying. Let's read the purport and we'll get a better understanding. So, Inya.
The material body, whether in the higher or lower planetary system, is destined to die. In the lower planetary system or lower species of life, one may die soon, and in the higher planets or higher species, one may live for a long, long time, but death is inevitable. This fact should be understood. In the human form of life, one should take the opportunity to put an end to birth, death, old age, and disease by performing tapasya. This is the aim of human civilization, to stop the repetition of birth and death, which is called Mrityu Samsara Vartmani. This can be done only when one is in Krishna conscious, when one is Krishna conscious, or has achieved the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. Otherwise, one must rot in this material world and accept a material body subject to birth, death, old age, and disease.
Mataji and Prabhuji are there?
No, Mataji.
Okay. Isha.
The example given here is that water is a very nice place for a fish, but the fish is never free from anxiety about death, since big fish are always eager to eat the small fish.
Falguni Tatra Mahatam.
Falguni Tatra Mahatam. All living entities are eaten by bigger living entities. This is the way of material nature. Ahastani sahastanam, apadani chatushpadam, falguni tatra mahatam, jivo jivasya jivanam. Those who are devoid of hands are prey for those who have hands. Those devoid of legs are prey for the four-legged. The weak are the subsistence of the strong, and the general rule holds that one living being is food for another. Bhagavatam 1.13.47. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has created the material world in such a way that one living entity is food for another. Thus, there is a struggle for existence. But although we speak of survival of the fittest, no one can escape death without becoming a devotee of the Lord. Harim Vinam Naiva Ritim Taranti. One cannot escape the cycle of birth and death without becoming a devotee. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.3. Aprapyam nivartante mrityu samsara vartmani. One who does not attain shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna must certainly wander up and down in the cycle of birth and death.
Now we'll go back and look at the purport. So King Nimi is saying, I don't want to accept a material body because it's the source of all miseries. Like for a fish, being out of water is nothing but fear at every moment, fear of being killed. But inside the water, the fish is peaceful and happy. There's no fear. Similarly, having a material body, getting a material body is like a fish being outside water. As long as you have a material body, you cannot be peaceful. You'll be experiencing fear and anxiety, and you have to face death. This is material body. So I don't want to go into the material body, King Nimi is saying. So then we saw material body is material body, whether it is the body of Indra or it's the body of a cockroach or someone else. It's all material bodies. The science is the same. Material body means at some point it will be finished. The destination of that material body is death. In the lower planetary system or lower species of life, one may die soon, and in the higher planets or higher species, one may live for a long, long time. So that is also there. So the life is shorter in the lower planets, and life is longer in the higher planets. Okay, they live for just like Lord Brahma. See how long is Lord Brahma's day, and then Indra's day. It's shorter, much shorter than Brahmaji's day, but still it's much longer than our day. Like that. So that means in higher planets they live for a longer time. So, but even if they live for a long time, the fact is it is still a material body. That means it has to meet with death. It has to meet with death. That cannot be avoided. So this fact should be understood, that death is inevitable for all material bodies. So when we get this human form of body, we should take advantage of this human form of life to end these processes of repeated birth, death, old age, and disease. So repetition of birth and death is called Mrityu samsara vartmani. Yeah. So, no, Mrityu Samsara Vartmani means stopping the repetition of birth. That is Mrityu Samsara Vartmani. Who will be able to do this? Stop the repetition of birth and death? This can be done by Krishna's mercy. So, when one surrenders to Krishna, then Krishna can very easily stop the cycle of birth and death. Okay. And if we don't take shelter of Krishna, we must rot in this material world. We'll have to take birth again and again and die again and again. Then the example of fish out of water. Since big fish are always eager to eat the small fish, so the fish is never free from anxiety about death. The big fish are eating small fish. The small fish are always facing anxiety of being caught by the big fish and eaten by the big fish. All living entities are eaten by bigger living entities. This is the way of material nature. Ahastani sahastanam apadani chatushpadam. Those who are devoid of hands are prey for those who have hands. Who's this? Those who don't have hands are prey for those who have hands. Those who don't have legs are prey for the four-legged. So those who have no hands are prey for those who have hands. So this must be man, right? And those who don't have hands. Who is it that those do don't? So when you have four legs, the front legs are not counted as hands. All four are called legs, right? So those who are devoid of hands, so these four-legged, they don't have hands, they become prey for the ones who have hands. That means you have only two hands, like human beings, and you have others like, I guess, chimpanzees, etc. So they have two hands. So those who have no hands are prey for those who have hands. And then those who don't have legs are prey for those who are four-legged. So those who have no legs means the trees, because they don't walk here and there. Plants. They are eaten by the four-legged, like cows, horses, like that, goats. The weak are the subsistence of the strong, and the general rule holds that one living being is food for another. This is the law of material nature. Jiva jivasya jivanam. One life is food for another. So, because one life is food for another, there is constantly struggle for existence. The one that is going to be killed and eaten is trying to save itself, so it has to fight to save its life. And the other one who's killing also has to fight to kill and eat, otherwise it'll die of starvation. So there is stiff, fight or a constant struggle for existence in this material world, because one form of life is food for another. But even though we say struggle for existence and survival of the fittest, right, Darwin's theory, you say survival of the fittest, for how long is this person or this living entity going to survive? Even in after the survival of the fittest, that best one also has to die in the end. Nobody is exempt from death. That's the important point. Although we speak of survival of the fittest, no one can escape death without being a devotee of the Lord. That means if you become a devotee of the Lord, then you don't have to face the fear of death. Harim vina naiva sritim taranti. One cannot escape the cycle of birth and death without becoming a devotee. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. One who does not attain shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna must certainly wander up and down within the cycle of birth and death. So you understand what is being said here? Nimi does not want to accept a body because it's the source of all miseries, just like the fish out of water. It's always in anxiety. Similarly, getting a material body means I will always be in anxiety, so I don't want a material body. Okay. But the important point is if you take to Krishna consciousness, then this repetition of birth and death can be stopped. If we don't take to Krishna consciousness, then we must rot in this material world. So King Nimi is saying, I don't want to take birth in the material body. How is it possible to not get another material body? When you take to Krishna consciousness, then you don't have to come again and again in this material world. So it's just explaining from a different angle. You just have to pay attention, okay? In yesterday's verse, King Nimi said, devotees don't mind taking birth in a material body. And in this verse, King Nimi is saying, I don't want to take a material body because it is the source of suffering. Okay? So what should we understand from this? The highlight is taking material bodies again and again means it is suffering, going through the pain of birth, old age, disease, and finally death. It's very fearful and painful. So therefore we don't want a material body. But the catch is, if you take to Krishna consciousness, then you don't have to go through this repeated cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. So your highlight here should be take to Krishna consciousness. When you take to Krishna consciousness, then you don't have to fear material body like that. Aditi Lata Mataji, you raise your hand.
Yes, Mataji, because he was saying that he gave such nice explanation the previous verse, and now he's saying, so why is he in anxiety? That was my question. You're not supposed to be, I mean, he's not supposed to be in anxiety then.
Yes, because he doesn't see himself as a devotee. But the lesson is you should, if you are a devotee, devotees are humble, isn't it? They don't say that I am a devotee. They say devotees are so glorious, devotees don't fear, but I'm still not a devotee, so I'm still like that. So then the solution is you should become a devotee. If you take to Krishna consciousness, then you don't have to worry. So that's why we get to understand when we see the purport. You see, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is just highlighting on the point. If you take to Krishna consciousness, then you don't have to worry about this. So then why Nimi Maharaj is saying he probably doesn't see himself as that pure devotee who doesn't have to fear, right? Of course, Srila Prabhupada said this also. The problem with us is we are not sufficiently fearful of Maya. We are not fearful of Maya enough, because when you understand the powers of Maya, how powerful she is, then you sincerely take shelter of Krishna. But if you think, oh no, Maya is fine, this material world is fine and it's nice and comfortable, that means we are not fearful enough of Maya, then we don't sincerely take shelter of Krishna. It's like we are coasting through, in our Krishna consciousness. Okay, this is good, that is good, everything is going on. Tivrena Bhakti Yogena is not happening. But when you're fearful of Maya, then you intensely take shelter of Krishna. Of course, this is also not in the advanced stages. In the advanced stages, there is no question of fear of Maya. Because they don't see Maya at all. All they see is Krishna, Krishna. Even Maya, they see as the energy of Krishna. But, from our stage, now we are still in the conditioned stage. From this, it's like we have to cross the bridge to go on the other side, right? So we are on this side. So yeah, we know that Maya is powerful. So the lesson is material world is not good, right? That's why you see in Srila Prabhupada's preachings also, Srila Prabhupada often says, don't come back. This place is not a place for a gentleman. Don't come back to this material world. Just make this your last life. That means you should have that type of determination to become Krishna conscious. Not that, we are looking at, getting a spiritual body, we want to go back to Godhead. Again, going back to Godhead means what? Means being completely Krishna conscious. That's what is going back to Godhead. Because you are constantly with Krishna at all times. Then it does not matter. So the goal is we have to become that 100% Krishna conscious. Then apparently King Nimi is in that stage. Then why he is saying, I mean, we can just think maybe out of his humility he's saying like that, right?
Probably for us, Mataji, but then for Prabhupada's life also, by that we understand. This is very confusing for me because he also suffered. Well, not like a materialistic person for Krishna, but he took the suffering, right? Like all the crises he went through everywhere in his life, even in his personal life. So when we say that, okay, if we say like Prabhupada used to say, go back to Godhead, don't come in this material life. I understand that this is misery and I'm going in it. But then I'm not working for Maya, I'm working for Krishna. But Krishna will also make me come to the suffering place only for preaching Krishna consciousness. So then I'm going through that suffering. Okay, you can say that, oh, my mind is Krishna conscious, I'm always with Krishna. But I'm also going through the same, well, not like the material people, but still I'm going through that suffering, which is so fearful for me. How can I ask Krishna that, you do whatever you want to do with me?
That's why, Mataji, when a first grader, you give calculus problem to a first grade student, be bewildered. What is this? I cannot understand. But the same calculus problem you give to a 12th grader or somebody, a math student in college, he can solve it very easily. So according to our level, we cannot expect that at our stage we will pray like Queen Kunti, oh, give me sufferings again and again. We can only admire and keep the lotus feet of Kunti Devi on our head. My God, she's able to pray like this means how advanced she is in Krishna consciousness. And that should make us humble to see where we stand. I cannot think like that. I cannot pray like that, isn't it? It's very fearful for me, this type of suffering. So then that should only tell us that I have long ways to go. But at the same time, if somebody is able to pray like that, we should see how advanced that devotee is. And as far as suffering for pure devotees, you mentioned Srila Prabhupada going through sufferings. Pure devotees voluntarily take, it is their highest ecstasy to take sufferings for Krishna. It cannot be conceived from our position because we don't have experience of that. But when there is love, and this love is not mundane love, this is transcendental. Even in mundane love, mundane means within this material world, you have some feeling of, that satisfaction when you make some sacrifice for the person that you love. You feel, let's say, for example, a mother feels happy when the child eats. Let's say there's only one nice sweet, and if the child eats and the mother doesn't eat, still she feels happy that my child has, she feels happy. What is this? Sacrifice, right? So she would feel more happy if the child ate than she ate it herself. Hmm? So this is still mundane within this world. What to speak of transcendental love for Krishna? That is on a different level. So it's the highest, like we are reading in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Externally, this is exactly, what we are reading. From outside, it looks like he's suffering so much tribulation, so much suffering. My God, how can anyone, you know, he doesn't get a break even for a moment from that suffering and being unable to bear. He's losing patience. He's grinding his face against the wall day and night. He cannot sleep even a wink at night, day and night. And those who are around him, they're thinking, my God, so much suffering he's going through. But the Acharya is explaining, this is like
love of Godhead is twofold, right? There are two effects simultaneously. It's like eating hot sugar cane. When you eat hot sugar cane, your mouth burns, which is very painful. But at the same time, the taste is so irresistible, you cannot stop eating it. Your mouth is burning, but still you cannot stop eating it. That's like love of Godhead is like that. On one hand, there's so much separation and so much tribulation, but at the same time, the ananda, the bliss that you're experiencing is irresistible. So how this will happen? We don't have experience of that. We cannot understand. Again, it's like somebody who is in postgraduate and the other person is in kindergarten. From kindergarten stage, if we try to understand what a postgraduate is studying, what is his level of, knowledge and intelligence, we cannot understand. We cannot understand how it is because we cannot relate to it. So we should act according to our level, right? Certainly we should aspire someday I may be there, I may be able to understand it, but still we should, you know act according to our level. So yes, you're not expected to pray that give me suffering, and but at the same time don't doubt that, oh, becoming a devotee means so much suffering. Yes, there will be suffering because the more you advance in Krishna consciousness, the tests also become more difficult. That's a fact. And that's when you're tested, that's when you know how much you have advanced. In every grade you have an exam. When you pass that exam, then you prove to them that yes, I have this knowledge, now I have completed this grade, and now I am promoted to the next level. So similarly we will get tests in Krishna consciousness, and the test is, in spite of all this tribulation, am I still, is my faith in Krishna still steady, or am I shaky now because of these difficulties, and I'm thinking, I'm having second thoughts, you know did I do the right thing taking to Krishna consciousness or what, right? Even in those difficult times, am I still holding on to Krishna or not? That is the test. And many tests will come. I mean, I can just tell for myself, I haven't gone through any tests yet, but difficult tests will come. you know it's either, losing some dear one, or just becoming very very ill, and getting some terminal disease, or so many things can happen. Being misunderstood by those who really love you, and defamed, and rejected. So many things can happen, and in spite of all that, will we still maintain our faith and gratitude to Krishna or not? That will be tested. So when we see the lives of pure devotees, like Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrita we are reading, so many reversals. But in the face of all these difficulties, they don't give up, they continue on serving Krishna. So that is the position of a pure devotee. I hope I'm going in the right direction with my explanation.
You
Hare
are
Krishna.
right, Mataji, but I can definitely understand. I probably will never become a pure devotee.
Not like that. Don't be.
It's impossible for me. That thought itself, those things which you said itself makes me have that fear and anxiety which I'm not supposed to have. Because I'm eager to die and take birth rather than go through those things, those severe tribulation in life. I already went through one, but I know how bad it can get.
Can.
It's so difficult, so difficult. And voluntarily Prabhupada took it. I mean, whenever I read Lila Amrita, I can't even imagine myself in that position. Can't even dream of it.
Mataji, not that everyone will be tested like that. Don't think like that. Actually, Krishna says that only when he is especially kind, favorable to some devotee, does he take away everything from him. That's a special, extraordinary mercy that comes to some devotee. So, in general, if you see, all of us, actually, all of us, majority of the devotees, if you see our lives before we came to Krishna consciousness and after we came to Krishna consciousness, it has changed for the good. You know, we were so disturbed and miserable and unhappy before coming to Krishna consciousness. And after coming to Krishna consciousness, our lives have become very, smooth and happy in general, overall, if you just look at your consciousness. So it is not that everyone will be tested with such troubles. It's not like that. It's not like that. But if you want to go to higher levels of bhakti, then you will have to take those risks, right? And a devotee with such advancement, that consciousness also will come where they're willing to take, because there is love. That's what it is. What do you mean by advancement? Advancement means your love for Krishna is increasing, it's becoming more and more intense. And when you have that much attachment, then you don't mind going through any trouble for the beloved, for the one that you love. So it's not that everyone will want that, it's not necessary. There are different types of devotees. You know, in the seventh chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we read, they're all devotees, by the way. Artho, Arthati, Jigyasu, Jnani, they're all devotees only. But they are not pure devotees, but they are devotees. And the result is they go back to Vaikuntha. They go to Vaikuntha, but they don't get seva. They don't get devotional service there. But they're there, right? They get eternal life, no more miseries. They don't have to come back to this material world. And they're in Vaikuntha. And different types of liberation. You can be in close proximity to the Lord. You can get the same form as the Lord, same opulence as the Lord, on the same planet as the Lord. All this you can get, even if you're not a pure devotee. So, if you are saying, like, at this point, your consciousness is like that, I don't want all this, you simply have to please the Lord by your devotional service. And even if somebody is not doing Shuddha Bhakti, even if they're doing Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti, Pradhani Bhuta means primarily they're doing Bhakti, but they may still have some, that Anya Abhilashita Shunyam is not satisfied yet. Right? Anya Abhilashita means you have no desires at all, save and except pleasing Krishna. So we are not there yet. But you have some other desires, then those desires will be fulfilled. Those desires will be fulfilled. How? Because of the devotional service that you're doing. So my point is, it is not that everyone is tested like this. Tested those who come to that level and who want to take that risk, they'll get. So when Krishna says he takes everything away, that's a special devotee. Ordinarily, we don't see that happening with every devotee. Just from my experience, I'm just seeing, it's not that every devotee, it's just the other way actually. By taking to Krishna consciousness, your life becomes very uh, peaceful. And don't you all agree with me? Don't you feel the same?
I definitely, for me, I'm surviving because of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah,
Like the calamity because of Krishna consciousness. That is true.
yeah, yeah,
Then I don't want anxiety or all those things. I want
yeah.
to serve Krishna. It's not that I don't want to. I want to do devotional service. It's not I want to go to Vaikuntha and just enjoy life.
Right.
But
Then,
go
then
through this
both
again.
won't come.
I don't want this again. Go through this again. The anxiety, the fear, the sorrow. Like it's easy to say you lose your loved one. It's easy to say you see your loved one suffering, but it's not easy to
Go
go
through
through that.
that.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
Mataji.
very difficult.
Agreed.
Even Prabhupada,
Agreed.
I can say that he was not like materialistic people, but he was anxious for his son who was not very happy or not in a proper way. So he was also telling his sister, right? Or who he was saying, giving the responsibility of his son. So he was also, it's not like, okay, fine, I'm a pure devotee, I don't care. It's not like that. you still have that thorn in your heart.
Not exactly. A pure devotee, it's not because he's my son. He feels for every person who's suffering. And someone who's right in front of your eyes, then you are seeing that person, right? So their heart, pure devotee's heart melts for any person who's suffering. And suffering, what is the real suffering? Real suffering is forgetfulness of Krishna. But the thing is, Mataji, you can only give someone as much as they are able to take. Like you have a diseased person and a healthy person. As a host, you want to feed everyone nicely, but there's only so much that the other person can take because of his condition, right? You want to serve all the sweets and everything that you made, you want to serve in the other person's plate. But if the person is diseased, there's only so much that he can take, right? So you are serving little bit to this person and more to that person. But that's not because you are discriminating. It's because the other person can only take so much. So similarly, a pure devotee feels for everyone, whether it is his own sons or other sons. He is only seeing everyone in the light of Krishna consciousness. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shuni Chaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshina. Even a Pandita is Samadarshina, then what to speak of a pure devotee? So yeah, we cannot say that, Srila Prabhupada is feeling because of his son. He would have felt like that for anyone, but yeah. But I get your point. You're saying it's not easy. Of course, it's not easy. Losing a dear one and seeing a dear one suffering, it's not easy. And after going through that difficulty, you don't want to go through it again. Completely understandable. But then when you look at Kunti Maharani and after going through all that difficulty and she's saying, give me more calamities. So we just think like, I mean, I'm not saying that you should pray like her or, you should become like her. It may not be possible for us to become like that at all. But we can really admire, wow, what kind of a devotee is this? After going through so much, a widow, her children right in front of her eyes, they tried to kill her children again and again, burn them alive, insulting her daughter-in-law, so many things they did. And in spite of all this, she's praying, send those calamities again and again. This just shows what, how much love this devotee has for Krishna. And yeah, we can simply admire them. And yeah, if I'm not able to pray like that, then I should just understand. I'm just being honest, right? I'm not there. I cannot, artificially pray like that. And that's totally understandable. So, on one hand, we are admiring them. I mean, we can pray that I may get that consciousness. I don't have that consciousness now. I'm even fearful of being there. But maybe by Krishna's mercy, at some point, I will get that type of consciousness where I'm able to say, yes, right? By the mercy. So, all we have to do, we have to pray to those devotees. That's all. Because it's by the mercy of the devotees that we get bhakti. We get bhakti by the mercy of these devotees. So, we have different types of devotees in the Bhagavatam. And we have the prayers of these devotees to Krishna. So you can choose the devotee that is most, uh, who inspires you the most by their life, by their prayers, and you can recite those prayers every day, and in that way you can get the mercy of that devotee so that you can become like that. But yeah, Krishna consciousness is
Kuleshekara,
not.
Kuleshekara.
Yeah. So you can recite the
That's the
prayers of
best.
King Kuleshekara.
Let me die now.
Yeah. So you just pray, chant his prayers like that. Okay. Achinta Devru,
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, can we say that with this special mercy of giving suffering to devotees, Krishna also gives and empowers them to face that situation?
Absolutely, no doubt about that. Otherwise, how anyone can face the situation? Do we have any power? But we just need to That first step, that willingness to say yes, that's the greatest step for us. Because really, we cannot do anything. But all we have is that willpower to say that, yes, give me this trouble, right? That itself is very difficult. But when you say that, and then you will see all help is available to you. But that first step of facing it is very difficult, right? We become bewildered. But you're absolutely right that when the difficulty comes, when Krishna gives the test, he also empowers us to deal with the test. Just need to access that empowerment.
Mataji, recently we went to New Vrindavan and we heard about the old. We went to old Vrindavan and we heard
Uh-huh.
the story of the devotees who walking 3/4 of a mile, who are taking water from that pond, breaking ice with no heat. So the suffering that they went through, and they took it. And then I think your Guru Maharaj was also there as a pujari.
Yes. Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah. Many. I mean, you read the stories or hear the stories of New Vrindavan devotees in the early days, you'll be amazed. And in spite of,
It
huh?
gives us a inspiration.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah. And that's why they are, the type of devotees that they are today is because of all the sacrifices that they made then and the surrender that they had to Krishna and to Srila Prabhupada. Yeah. So yes, definitely empowerment is there. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told, uh, about the civil disobedience movement, right? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave an order, and now I'm kind of forgetting the exact details of that pastime. But there is a famous statement there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It comes in the context of Chand Kazi. So whenever the Supreme Lord gives an order, right, that you should do like this, he gives an order. Along with the order itself comes the empowerment to do it. Like Srila Prabhupada told so many of his devotees, just drop them off at a railway station, like going in a moving train, and just drop them off at a station and said, you start a temple, and the train went away. They're in a foreign country, they don't know anyone. But what you have to do is surrender to that order. And then you start working in that direction, and things will start opening because the empowerment is there in the order itself. But if we don't trust the order, huh, and then we doubt, oh, how is this possible? This doesn't make sense. Then you don't get the empowerment is there, but you're not able to access it. So that's what is called surrender. Surrender means you, however, it may look like it's impossible, but with full faith in the Lord, you apply yourself to it. You submit yourself to it. That is surrender. And when you do that, and then you see all wonderful things happening. And then you will see, did I do this? No, you didn't do it. You don't do it. But because you surrender, then Krishna does wonderful things through you. Like that. So yes, thank you for that point. It is 6:30 already. Let us stop reading Srimad Bhagavatam here. So who read today? We finished this purport, right? I was just explaining the purport. One life is food for another. Yeah. The point is death, right? Whichever body you get, ultimately you have to die. But one who attains the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, yeah. One who does not attain the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, he has to go up and down in this material creation through various species. But if you take shelter of Krishna, then it does not matter. Material body, spiritual body, no fear. You will not have fear of death. So, here, Nimi is praying that I don't want this material body. Why he's saying? Because the bottom line is, in the material body, if it is not engaged in devotional service to Krishna, then that material body is simply suffering. But if you are engaged in devotional service of Krishna, then no fear. Okay, so then is he not engaged in devotional service of Krishna? Yeah, we can understand out of humility. Maybe he's saying that I'm not. Okay. Bhagavad Gita, introduction. We'll read one more paragraph. This is not a very difficult process. However, one must learn it from an experienced person. What is not a very difficult process? Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanyagamina, right? Fixing your mind on Krishna by practice. That's not, and then by that practice, at the end of your life, you'll remember Krishna, and by remembering Krishna at the end of your life, you'll go back to Krishna. This is not a very difficult process, Prabhupada is saying, right? Practicing to fix your mind on Krishna, it's not a very difficult process. However, one must learn it from an experienced person. That's the thing. You know, in devotional service, the key is association and mercy of a pure devotee. That's the key. Association and mercy. So the more you associate with serious devotees, sincere devotees, you also become infected with their sincerity. And also receiving mercy from the pure devotees, right? So how do you get mercy? By rendering service. By rendering service, you get mercy of pure devotees. So one must learn it. Learn what? Learn this process of fixing your mind on Krishna. You should learn this from an experienced person. Tad vijnanartham sagurumevabhigachet. One must approach a person who is already in the practice. The mind is always flying to this and that, but one must practice concentrating the mind always on the form of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna or on the sound of his name. It is so wonderful, you know, Prabhupada, whether he's whichever part, you know, whether you hear it in a lecture or you read it in Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, wherever it will be the same point. It's not, you won't see like things are changed a little bit here. No, same point he will say. I was listening to Prabhupada's lecture today. Srila Prabhupada says exactly the same point, that you should practice, you know, it's a practice. So you go to the temple, take darshan of the Lord, and all the time. And Prabhupada says, if you're not able to do it all the time, at least at regular intervals, you go take darshan of the Lord in Mangalarti and Bhog Arti, right? Different artis are there. At least at regular intervals, you take darshan of the Lord. And if you're not able to go to the temple because the temple is too far, all right, you sit at home and you chant Hare Krishna. The sound vibration is also, it's basically whether you're taking darshan of the Lord or you're hearing his holy name, it is an experience. You're experiencing Krishna, right? That is what is required. It is the same thing, Srila Prabhupada said. And now we are hearing this, reading the same thing here also. What is Srila Prabhupada saying? The mind is always flying to this and that, but one must practice concentrating the mind always on the form of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna or on the sound of his name. If you're not able, if you don't have an opportunity to focus your mind on the form, then you hear the sound of his holy name. The mind is naturally restless, going hither and thither, but it can rest in the sound vibration of Krishna. I can tell you one more thing. Today, I was actually quite, I was just getting into that mode of getting really disturbed. Some things happened, and I was like, you know, sometimes it's like beyond your control. You're like, you don't know, you know, you're like kind of losing your balance. And I was like, I just turned on Prabhupada's lecture while I was, you know, preparing to cook lunch. I was just picking the shark leaves. And I just turned on Prabhupada's lecture and I just let the sound vibration go in, right? While my mind was disturbed and all that, whatever else, I just let that sound vibration go on. And I'm telling you, just within minutes, normally I would have been really disturbed, I can tell. If that didn't happen, if I didn't hear Srila Prabhupada's lecture at that time, it probably would have gone on and on for, I don't know, several minutes or maybe hours, I don't know. But just turning on Prabhupada's lecture and just doing that service, I was cooking, right? And certainly, of course, I was going to offer to the Lord. But I was not able to meditate so much on anything. I was just doing my, cooking part, and I was just listening to Prabhupada's lecture, and everything else kind of faded away. So this is like a practical example of what is being said here, that the mind is always flying to this and that. Just some slight thing, disturbance, and then the mind, loses its balance. But one must practice concentrating the mind always on the form of the Supreme Lord or on the sound of his name. The mind is naturally restless, going hither and thither, but it can rest in the sound vibration of Krishna. It can rest. That's why I told you this. The mind can rest in the sound vibration of Krishna. Just, the mind is restless, right? Restless. But it can rest in the sound vibration of Krishna. So expose your mind to the sound vibration of Krishna, and it will become peaceful. It will rest. One must thus meditate on Paramam Purusham, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the spiritual kingdom, the spiritual sky, and thus attain him. The ways and the means for ultimate realization, ultimate attainment are stated in the Bhagavad Gita, and the doors of this knowledge are open for everyone. The ways and means for ultimate realization, ultimate attainment are stated in the Bhagavad Gita. So this is the introduction to Bhagavad Gita. What all are you going to find in Bhagavad Gita? Right? The ways and means for ultimate realization are stated in Bhagavad Gita. And the doors of this knowledge are open for everyone. No one is barred out. All classes of men can approach Lord Krishna by thinking of him. For hearing and thinking of him are possible for everyone. So we'll read the rest of the Bhagavad Gita. We'll continue tomorrow. Maybe I'll quickly read one small paragraph of Leelamrita just so that we have our continuity. Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrita, continuation.
But it's very difficult to remember in that time when we are agitated.
Yes, Mataji. So, yeah, somehow or other, if you can just, really, it's true.
And the foolish thing is, in that agitation, at least me, I think, oh, how about this, as if I'm only doing or we're only doing. But then we give up. And that's when Krishna, it's okay, whatever happens. Why we didn't think of that in the beginning? We don't know. We had to go through that and then get the medicine. I always feel a lot of times, Krishna, why you don't give us in the beginning itself this thought? This old age, as we're all getting old, sometimes it's very frustrating. But again, at least at the end, Krishna, please, thank you. Just quickly came that thought, Mataji, when I heard what you said. We all go through.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't go through it so often, so therefore it becomes like, what's going on like that? But yeah. But just the power of the sound vibration, right? It's so powerful that however, and Srila Prabhupada also said that if your mind is disturbed, Srila Prabhupada said, just go and sit in front of the deities, take your beads and chant Hare Krishna. And you will see how it will calm down. Yeah, go to the temple room, sit down with the beads, and just chant.
Yes,
I've seen,
Mataji.
yeah.
Yes, that helps. Also, sometimes Krishna, like at least me personally, for anything, if we feel okay, I'm not happy now, I'm getting disturbed. No, I have to calm down, think calmly. It's not the end of the world. And then slowly, the thinking of Krishna, no, like that. That tiny self just tells us as if something just dropped. Yes, Mataji. Yeah.
Achintadev Prabhu?
Mati, just a thought again is it also depends upon how we look at things, right? So a suffering can be looked as suffering or can also be looked as a positive also. For example, it's like glass half full, uh, half empty, right?
Yes,
So,
yes,
so if we are going through something, I think we should look for a positive in that part.
yes, Prabhuji. Comes with maturity. Comes with maturity in Krishna consciousness. If you're able to look at things, what am I supposed to learn from this, and what is the lesson, right? Why? There's something to be learned. I'm being put through this situation because there's some message for me here, right? If you're able to think like that, so it's amazing. Yeah, that's really good. That
It's like if I fall, so there are two ways to look at it, right? Why did Krishna make me fall? Or I look at thank you, Krishna, for not injuring me. I fell,
yeah,
I I got my lesson, but I did not go through that severe pain.
absolutely. This is even higher than that, actually. What is the lesson I'm supposed to learn? That is one level. But the next level is to say that I was supposed to suffer much more, but you're so kind, Krishna, that you only gave me a little bit. That's like, right? Lord Brahma praying to Krishna. So that's how a true devotee would pray. And actually, not just a true devotee. If anyone is able to think like this when he's going through sufferings, then there in that verse it says, such a person, going back to Godhead is his rightful claim, right? Like you get inheritance from your father's property. You don't have to do anything to get the inheritance. Your living is sufficient for you to receive that inheritance because you are the son or the relative, maybe grandson or nephew or whatever. Because you're related to that person, you become the rightful heir of that property. Similarly, anyone who's able to think like this, when some difficulty comes, he thinks actually I deserve to suffer much more, but Krishna is so kind that he has reduced the suffering. I should have died, but instead I just fell or I just lost my hand. And he feels gratitude to Krishna. If a devotee is able to feel like this, think like this, then going back to Godhead is his rightful claim, it is said. So that's actually the highest. Thank you. So then let's quickly read Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrita a little bit. Seeing him from a distance, a tiny figure walking Manhattan streets and avenues among many other tiny figures, a foreigner whose visa had almost run out, we come upon only the external appearance of Srila Prabhupada. These days of struggle were real enough and very difficult, but his transcendental consciousness was always predominant. He was not living in Manhattan consciousness, but was absorbed in dependence upon Krishna. Just as when on the Jaladuta he had suffered his heart attacks, his reading of Chaitanya Charitamrita had supplied him the nectarine of life. He had already succeeded. Certainly, he wanted to provide Radha and Krishna a new temple in New York, but his success was that he was remembering Krishna. Even in New York City in the winter of 1965-66, whether the world recognized him or not. Not a day went by when he did not work on Krishna's book, Srimad Bhagavatam. And not a day went by when he did not offer food to Krishna and speak on Krishna's philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost to him and he is never lost to me. And Krishna assures his pure devotees that my devotee will never be vanquished. There was never any doubt about this for Prabhupada. The only question was whether Americans would take notice of the pure devotee in their midst. At this point, it seemed that no one was going to take him seriously. So it's not like it was a cakewalk for Prabhupada that he just came to America and immediately everyone came together and they just took to Krishna consciousness and the temple started coming up immediately. It was not like that. Now we get to see the struggles. At this point, it appeared like nobody took him seriously. They didn't want the temple, no help. These were the initial days of struggle. So we will stop here. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. You have a wonderful day in Krishna consciousness. Thank you.